20th, 2024. I'll call the regular meeting of the Oroville City Council to order. Can we quickly have the roll call?
Councilmember Johnstone?
Present.
Councilmember Riggs?
Present.
Councilmember Thompson? Here. I note Councilmember Goodson as absent. Councilmember Weber?
Here.
Vice Mayor Smith?
Here.
Mayor Pittman?
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Just a little welcome to all the folks in the audience today. And just a little, not to scare you, but we should have a safety message, as we should anytime there's a public gathering. So just to let you know, there's two exits, one that you came through, and there's another one over here on the side. If you need to use the restroom, it's down the hallway. It's available, public restrooms. And if we have an event like an earthquake or something that causes us to leave the building, we would ask you all to go out to the parking lot to just account for everyone here. And then the person that has a job to clear the room is Mr. Fred Mayo. So he'll be the last one out if we have an event. Just to give a heads up. Thank you. We had no closed sessions today, so there's nothing to report. And Pledge of Allegiance. Councilman Weber, would you lead us?
Pledge. Salute. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item is the adoption of agenda for council. What's pleasure? Roll call, please.
Motion passes with 6 yeses and 1 absent.
Okay, presentations, proclamations, we have none tonight, is that correct? Okay. Public communication hearing of non-agenda items. Do we have any cards?
Yes, we do, Mr. Mayor. We'll begin with Linda Draper and follow that with Bill Spear.
Thank you.
Mike.
Oh. There you see. Oh,
Is that it?
it's on now, yeah.
It's on. Okay. I wasn't planning to say anything this evening, but my friend Celia brought one of my handouts and suggested that I share and see what you might want to do with it, if anything. Anyway, I started giving these out about 2 or 3 months ago to homeless people in town, and all it is a list of about 1 full page of any resources that we have here in Oroville that help homeless people. And one is the Hope Center, and I mention what they do, the days they're open, the times, the address and phone number. Second, the Haven of Hope on Wheels, the same thing, a description of what they offer and where and when it can be accessed. The third one is the Greater Oroville Homeless Coalition that Carol and Dwayne Zanin run. And they donate money to people who are about to be evicted and become homeless or about to have their PG&E bill cut off, that kind of thing. Fourth, the Oroville Rescue Mission. I mentioned the days that they are, what they have there and the days that they're open and what meal times are, and about the cooling center there and also on Baldwin Avenue. And then the fifth one is at the Feather River Senior Citizen Center. They do have meals for people that are 60 years and older. So also mentioned on here is where people can get a free cell phone if they need help with something, mental health issues, whatever. And I mention on here that there are only 2 public restrooms in town, from what I understand. They're the Portland Loos that are up on the levee. And from what I've heard, one of them is now blocked off and unavailable. So that means we have 1 public restroom for people in this town. And I just want to mention, how this affects public health, because people have to go to the bathroom somewhere, right? And also I think it's kind of the humane thing to do, that we have public restrooms. So I would encourage you to get that second Portland Loo open so that homeless people can use that. And anybody who wants to make copies of this is free to do so. I just copy them on hard stock paper so that they're not as easily bent up or lost. Anyway, thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Up next, we have Bill Spear.
Mayor, I think Mr. Webb.
Oh, Councilman Weber, yes.
Yes,
Sorry, I missed it.
I had a comment about her comment. So, yeah, about a year ago, the Orville Community Development Coalition actually designed and implemented a trifold brochure that is Orville-centric resources. If you would like, I'll give you a copy. We've been distributing them all over the community. And so those are actually been given out by the Community Navigator Program as well as the OPD. So we've got a resource guide that is excellent, and I would love to share them with you as well.
Additionally, Councilmember Weber, code enforcement hands those out as well. We like your
Okay,
tripod.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
it's fine.
Yeah.
I just want to let you know
Yeah.
that we get your pamphlets and hand them
Right.
out as well.
Thank you for reminding me.
Vice Mayor Smith is on the queue.
Mr. Mayor, could you give a brief update of where we are with the Portland Loos?
Yeah, so the one at Bedrock Park has currently been taken out of service because we closed the park due to some significant public safety issues. There's no power out to the park yet. However, the contract with PG&E was paid last week, and now it's actually going into the construction phase design. So we should have the contract ready for construction by the end of November of this year. Actually, I got that email today. So we'll be back in service up there soon. There are some significant repairs that need to happen at Bedrock before we feel comfortable opening the park back up. And we'll be coming to council probably in the next council or two with a proposed idea and potential budgets on what it's going to take to open up Bedrock.
Thank you.
The one at Centennial, unfortunately, it is open to the public. We've had multiple vandalism there. The original locks that came with the Portland Loo, from what I understand, are close to $1,000 for the door handles and the lock, and somebody poured super glue in and destroyed the locks. So we've gone through multiple sets of door handles and locks out there, so we've actually ended up using pull handles and a deadbolt so nobody can lock themselves in. That's actually being tampered. I was there Monday morning, somebody over the weekend went through, kicked in and crushed the stainless steel garbage can inside the loo, broke the stainless steel toilet paper dispenser, and ratcheted and broke partial of the handicap railings. It's just the escutcheons on it. It's not the railing. That integrity is still in place, but the escutcheons are now broke. So we're working on getting those back. It's been an ongoing battle, to be quite frank with you, with the Portland Loo, especially in particular at Centennial. We've had minimal damage at Bedrock for whatever reason, but Centennial's been an ongoing issue for us. And we're out there probably once a week with our back on unplugging the toilet because jackets and shirts and tents have gone into the sewer main, so.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Mr. Spear?
I have one more question about that.
Oh, I'm sorry, Kat, go ahead.
I thought that we had purchased 3. Is there still no, we didn't purchase 3? I've lost my mind. Oh, great. Good to know. Thank you.
I'm only aware of 2.
Maybe it was originally planned to purchase 3 and we changed it at some point and I've forgotten that.
I think there's some
That sounds
right.
conversations I think there's conversations for putting one at the parking lot, but yeah, there's just 2.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Veterans, that was Veterans Hall. That was supposed to be a third there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So.
That was a discussion.
All right, thank you. Up next, we have Bill Spear.
Bill?
Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council. Verse today, Galatians 6:7. Be not deceived, God is not mocked. What we sow is what we're going to reap. Father God, I pray that you would continue to let us see the opportunities that you give us to sow good seed, to lift up and build, to advance for your kingdom and for your glory. Amen. Short prayer. I want to save a little time to speak about an issue. And right from the top, I'd like you to know that I am biased on the circumstances that I would like to talk about. But I was reading the paper, and Councilman Weber was talking about us looking for an interim police chief, and that there wasn't enough votes to extend Chief LaGrone's 2-year contract. And, I kind of find it hard to believe that we couldn't get enough support to extend a 2-year contract for him. Knowing how hard it is, we've been in this position before a few years back trying to find a police chief when Chief LaGrone's filled in for city administrator also was wearing both hats. But the changes that have been made in the last couple years of, the municipal law enforcement and then the community navigator and these days it's not hard, it's not very easy to find law enforcement because of the attack that there is on law enforcement as the nation as a whole, and the stigma that gets put on them, and it's a hard job, and especially with the state laws and stuff, and I just thought that we would have more support from someone that's worked in our city with their heart, and I've been watching for over 10 years, putting their whole heart into when the budget wasn't there, trying to make sure that we made all ends meet, taking cuts, and all of the attacks. It's like it don't matter the good stuff you do. Everybody's going to look at the one bad thing, and there have been bad things that happen, but there's bad things happen everywhere. But it's how we deal with it, and I believe that we should be thankful that he's willing to stick around for another couple years, and that we should support him, and until Chief Darnell's ready to take over. You can put it out there and get it an interim, but it just still caught me off guard when I read it. It seemed kind of unbelievable to me, and we will reap what we sow. I think we need to support the people that we have.
Thank you. Up next, we have Terry Walk. I'll be coming up to give you handouts that she had provided.
Thank you. Welcome, Terry.
Hi, hello. I want to start out by saying thank you for your guys' service to our community. I'm Terry Wall. I'm one of the owners of Taco Bell, and I would like to address the homeless problem that we have here in Orrville. Let me share with you one day of problems that we had recently to deal with. August 14th, Wednesday, around lunchtime, so this noontime, a customer came in and said, "You have a homeless person in your food waste bin." So I stepped off the line and went to check it out. I took my assistant manager with me. I went around the dumpster. All 3 of my green waste bins were tipped down on their sides. In one of the waste bins, there was somebody inside. I asked her to leave. She started threatening and cussing at me. I told my assistant manager to call the police. Then the homeless person threw rice and beans at me. Then she started to leave, but first she smeared rice and beans on my employees' cars. By the time the police arrived, this person was gone. Later that day, I was told our trash was in the field behind the Three Hearts Veterinarian business. My assistant and I went to clean this trash up. And there was a lot, and you could see in the pictures, there's a lot of trash there. This is just one day, just one day of trash that we deal with. Every day we have problems with the homeless person, either mistreating our team, our guests, and our business. The homeless problem is at both Taco Bell locations and at our main office, which is the first page there. That was what we walked in today. Please consider this problem as a major issue in our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry.
That's all I have for submitted public comment, sir.
All right, thank you all. Next item is council announcements and reports. Any councilman have a report? Councilman Weber's up.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to announce that next Wednesday, 8/28 at 7:30 p.m. at Orrville High School at the Big Gym, that the Orrville High School cheerleaders, which are state champions, are going to be receiving their rings So there'll be a ring ceremony. I'm going to be there. I think this is a good opportunity to go out and support our youth. And these girls really did a fantastic job at, representing. And so I'm super excited for that event. So I'll be out there to check it out. And that's all I got for now.
Good. Any other councilman? I'll make a short report. I attended the Helms 40th year anniversary for PG&E's power plant, and I've been in a group of about 30 elected officials up and down the state that get to participate in some of their projects and to see what's going on. And kind of a side note to that particular celebration, which is outside of Fresno, at lunch, 6 of us got to have lunch with Patty, the CEO of PG&E, and we had a nice long talk, and she looked at the room and said, anyone like to talk about their city? Well, I exceeded my 3 minutes. And we had a good talk about Oroville, and if nothing else, PG&E's on the radar. Particular issue that I raised was the time to get service connections, which you just exampled. She even admitted it was 18 months to 24 months in a new home. So they've got to get that improved somehow or another. And those are just little items that we could hopefully see. As much as PG&E is costing us, they are our partner in delivering the electric service. So it's a good conversation to have. And thank you for that report about just the service for the park. It's months out. It's crazy. Administration reports. Oh, sure. Go ahead, Thompson.
It's funny. I have a hard time sometimes sharing some of my thoughts or things I'm doing because I don't want to I don't know. Sometimes it feels like we pontificate. And not to say anybody else helps here, I just don't want to do that. But one thing that's on my mind and I'm working towards, and maybe this council can write a letter in support of, is insurance costs are killing anybody that's got a home. It's just up and up and up, and I think it's going to be driving some of our community out of town, with the cost. You can own your home, but can you afford the insurance for it? It's just crazy. I don't know the solution yet. Today I met with the chief of CAL FIRE for our local, just to talk to him and see on his side if there's something that as a city, because you've heard of FireWise communities that help insurance rates go down. Something that we can do as a city as a whole, some kind of investment or some way that we can work together as a community that would make or help insurance companies look favorably towards Oroville, because that would help everybody. Man, if we could reduce some, just killing it. Luckily, so far, my insurance hasn't gone through the roof like I heard some, but I'm just counting down the days, especially since we were just on a mandatory evac with the Thompson fire. So I'm sure they're going to be looking at that. But possibly with the council, if we can write a letter in support of the state, if it's something beyond the local level, if we can write to our representatives on the state level, if they could, I'm not sure what they could do on their side, but at least working towards something to help, because it's just killing our community, these costs for whether you own your home or you're renting, because somebody owns the home and their insurance is going up. So that affects your rent for your house and all that. So anyway, just something I'm working on. Mm-hmm. And if the council would like to support some kind of a letter towards our state or our representatives, our Senate, is all over, basically a cry out for help, because I think we're all feeling it, but maybe a voice that would say something needs to be done as a community would be great.
Councilman Weber's up.
Yeah, thank you. I actually did have one other item that I wanted to talk about. You, Councilmember Thompson, just to jog my memory too, I would like to also entertain the idea of us as a body sending a letter of support to the Prop 36 campaign, because I know that a lot of us have already signed the petition when we were trying to get it on the ballot, and now that it's on the ballot, it's Prop 36 is the ballot initiative, and this is up to your point. I was trying to think where I recognized you from, and of course it was Taco Bell. As soon as you seen that, I was like, of course it is, but you've been there forever too. So yeah, quite the success story, if I might add, of your career and then ultimate purchase, and it's really the American dream come true, really. So I feel you, and you know, the whole city feels it, you know, the effects of what we're dealing with. And thankfully, code enforcement and the OPD have done a really good job. The city has done a really good job at mitigating a lot of the issues that we have seen, but we do have those ones that are extremely service resistant. And downtown, we see them all the time, and you know, so everybody has to deal with it. And I'm not trying to say that in terms of unvalidating what your concerns, because you have extremely valid concerns, and they were duly noted, of course. Our hearts go out to these issues. Our hearts go out to the unhoused individual that's in this position where they're out of their mind due to mental health issues or compounded by drugs and alcohol, you know, use as well. So, but with that being said, I would love to entertain the thought of us sending a letter of support to the Prop 36 campaign initiative. I think this is an excellent opportunity for us to kind of unwind some of the unintended side effects of what kind of came with the Prop 47 that was passed 10 years ago. And I don't think it was intentional. I think it just happened, and it was an unintended consequences, if you will. And now we see it in the full manifestation, and so I think we could do better. But anyway, if we would entertain that, that'd be great. Thank you.
You bet. Are you guys back up, or you're out?
I'm off.
Okay, you're off. All right, thank you.
I put it on there again, I'm sorry.
Excuse me, I'm looking at the roll call here, if they tell me when they want to talk. Administration reports, sorry.
I have a couple quick updates. I talked to Lonnie over at Cal Water, just wanted to get an update on the fluoride process, or the discontinuation of fluoride in the Cal Water, domestic water. They have reached out to the CPUC, the Public Utility Commission, and they are going to make a formal request to modify they have an order that requires them to fluoridate the water. So they're making a request to modify that order. So I'll keep you appraised on how that goes, and if they need anything else from the city's perspective on that. And then I also wanted to pass along, and I'll mention it again on the September 3rd meeting, is that there's going to be a memorial for Bud Bolt on September 7th. It'll be 3 o'clock at the Vets Hall, and it'll be followed with refreshments at actually the Bolt Museum at 4:30. So we'll put it out on social media, and I'll mention it again on the 3rd, but I wanted to get it on everybody's radar. That's all I have.
Okay. All right, any other administration reports?
I have a couple of updates.
Fred, go ahead.
Well, I'll start with the Highway 162 project. Just wanted to give you guys a kind of the cliff notes of what's happening out there right now. So as far as the project status, timeline for construction, we've consumed about 48% of the projected timeline for the project has came and gone. About 53% of the project is actually completed. Now that PG&E's got their utilities moved, we're really filling in the gaps. The cow's been closed, and a few other key areas have been closed. And to that end, we've also spent about 49% of the budget that was for the project. I found out late this afternoon that the new lighting poles that we were ordering, about 2 weeks ago, we were thinking they were going to come in January maybe, but we got word today that they should be on the property in November, so that should help accelerate the project. We're pretty close to being done with all the curb, gutter, and sidewalk. There's just fill-in areas and some retaining walls that we're doing, but most of the curb and gutter sidewalk is done at this point. So there's been a significant amount of work done. There's a few exceptions to that, which would be up at towards Foothill on Olive Highway and on the YDOT, and those should be getting poured in the next week or two. So it's significant progress out there. I just wanted the council to know. And Ghirardelli and Fritz and Alyssa with the engineering team have been staying on top of it really well. There was kudos to the team for working with PG&E, because it was a challenge there for a while to get some of these utilities moved. And I want to thank PG&E on a public forum too, to actually clear the deck for us to get some crews out there to make some of these pieces actually move along, so the project didn't get held up. One other piece that I have that's an interesting little tidbit, and that is thank you for the budget last year, because we were able to buy 2 radar trailers for Public Works. We have our own trailers, and they were delivered last Friday. And I believe we're going to have training on it with the manufacturer in the next week and a half, 2 weeks, so we can actually start setting them up. With school coming again, we'll get them out and deployed and start doing our own data logging as far as traffic. So that's the latest and greatest I got for Public Works.
All right.
Thanks.
Patrick? Okay. Go ahead, Ron.
For the sake of time, I'll just be really quick. I hope you, the council had an opportunity to view the report that I provided you August 6th, I think it was. Sorry, I was in Bermuda. Couldn't be here. But I do want to give a little update on that. We're averaging abating 42 to about 50 camps a month. And, code enforcement, City Works, Clean Streets, the police department, and the MLEs, behavioral health, housing navigation, everybody is a part of that. It's not any one person that's doing anything spectacular out there. We have a great team that's present out there, and we continue to work hard and work within the rules and the laws that we're given and, manage the problem. We'll never solve or stop the problem, but we do our best to manage the problem.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? No? Finance? We're good to go, all right. Well, then, the next item, and thank you all for your comments, consent agenda. You gonna pull 8?
I have to recuse myself because
Okay.
my involvement with that.
Or we could just pull 8 and then vote on it after you leave. I'll just pull it number 8 and,
Yeah, we can pull number 8 and just put it on the regular agenda.
okay. So I'll hear a motion for the consent agenda with number 8 item pulled.
I move that we adopt consent items 1 through 7.
Do I hear a second?
Oh, and 9, sorry.
I'll second.
Call the
I'm
roll,
sorry.
please.
Councilmember Riggs, you motioned
1 through 7 and 9.
Thank you so much.
All right, we'll call the roll.
Motion passes with 6 yeses and 1 absent.
Okay, and we have a councilman that's going to recuse himself, and we'll reconsider number 8.
Do that now?
Yeah, sure.
Maybe.
I'll entertain a motion for agenda item number 8. Motion seconded. Who's second? Oh, second. Do you get it? Motion second?
Move it to regular?
No, this is,
No, just to
It's already-
approve number 8.
yep, for number 8.
Number 8.
Yes. I'm sorry, one more time.
Motion,
Okay. Perfect, thank you.
and then call the roll. Okay.
Motion
Yep.
passes with 5 yeses
Thank
and
you.
2 absent.
No, Councilman Smith recused himself.
1 absent, 1 recusal.
Gotcha. Okay. We can move to regular business, right? Our hearing is set for 5:15, correct?
So we'll go to regular, yep.
Regular business. Item number 10, item for the night. It's U.S. Supreme Court decision in Grants Pass versus Johnson and the State of California Executive Order N-1-24. Who's up for this?
I'll just kick it off really briefly here. I think Ron just stated something very well. I mean, I think the city of Oroville has done a tremendous amount of things over the years, and it's not just one person, one department. It's a combination of multiple departments, multiple partnerships within the community that have really helped the city address this complex issue that not only the city of Oroville is dealing with, but the nation. But with that said, with the U.S. Supreme Court decision, Grants Pass v. Johnson, and the state of California's new executive order, there's been a lot of questions that have come up. Okay, what are the implications does this determination have on the city? And we've been working on this staff internally for a number of weeks now, and what we have tonight is we're going to have our city attorney just kind of give a high-level overview of the ruling itself, and then we wanted to pass it on to both OPD and code enforcement to kind of refresh the community on all the things that the city is currently doing right now. So with that, I'm going to turn over to Assistant City Attorney Dave Ritchie to talk about, again, high-level determination of the rulings for the Supreme Court case and the executive order.
All right, well, thank you. So let me preface this by saying that my comments here are for general information. They're not legal advice, so I'm not opining on the sufficiency of any of the city's processes or, indicating what it should or should not do. But I just want to give you an idea, of the Grants Pass decision, how it impacts upon sort of the broader California law landscape on anti-camping, for example. And then also talk a little bit, very briefly, about the governor's order that was issued shortly following to encourage, mandate certain state departments, but also encourage local agencies to pay some attention to the homelessness issue and balancing the interests of those individuals with some compassion against the interests of the broader community with respect to not having camping in the, public spaces, for example. So, as you know, the Supreme Court issued a decision in Grants Pass, Oregon versus Johnson, and the central issue in that case was whether a violation or prohibition of camping subjected those individuals who were camping to a violation of their Eighth Amendment rights. But it does not universally prohibit ordinances that bar camping on public spaces. So there is some leeway in managing public properties that balances all of these interests. So in California, we have some underlying relevant case law, like Toby versus City of Santa Ana, where our Supreme Court in California has determined that banning camping and storage of personal property in designated public spaces is not unconstitutionally overbroad, right? But because Grants Pass versus Oregon was in place, we had a number of injunctions that were issued in connection with whether you could enforce these anti-camping ordinances based on the Eighth Amendment argument. But also there were other cases in California. Lavin versus City of Los Angeles and Garcia versus City of Los Angeles articulated some limits on what agencies like cities and counties can do with individuals' property when they're unhoused and you come into possession of that, or you're taking possession of it in some kinds of way. Grants Pass case did not speak to those concerns. So we have a framework that's established by these local California case law items. So the reason that we mention these other cases that concern the possessions and property of homeless individuals, and some of those things are very important documents, like legal documents, or they may be heirlooms that they hang on to, and they may have actual real monetary value, but they also may have an intrinsic value to the individual that's more qualitative. If you enforce an anti-camping ordinance, you necessarily implicate what's going to happen with the property, and that's why there's some questions surrounding that. Grants Pass case does not touch on those subjects. It really is very limited. So we wanted to bring you this because the governor's executive order requests that agencies like ours continue to start to enforce these anti-camping ordinances, but they ask for us to do it with compassion and with care with respect to how we handle a person's property, and they use the DOT policy as model, Department of Transportation, as a model for how to go about doing that, and that includes things like storing of property and so on and so forth. So the executive order is a request from the governor's office that, as you move forward with different kinds of methodologies for maybe enforcing camping ordinances on public property, and be advised it's all on public property, that you take note of the Department of Transportation processes for securing the property and making sure it's cared for properly. And, they store these things for example, under those regulations for 60 days. So that is where we are. We are able to have a little bit more flexibility because the Eighth Amendment question is sort of out of the way, but you still have to abide by Fourth Amendment requirements for unlawful searches of individuals and their property, and 14th Amendment searches, 14th Amendment taking possession of a person's property without due process type of thing. So we have to allow for that in anything that you do. So while we consider whether there are different alternatives for how you move forward and how you do that with care for that part of the community that is unhoused, we have those examples in front of us. So while you consider those options, we also want to talk a little bit from the departments about what the city actually does and what kind of programs we have had and the level of success that we've had with those, even in light of the fact that Grants Pass put some barriers in place. Because this is a lot more of a success story than you might think when you hear all of the different aspects that have been addressed here and have been successful in a manner that complies with the legal landscape to this point. So we have a little bit more flexibility now. It offers us also a little bit more security now. And I'm going to let the department talk about what they do. And just bear in mind, I'm not giving an opinion on the legal sufficiency of it or, what you should or shouldn't do. But I think it's important that you consider all these things as you evaluate where we've been and where we're going with this. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Vice Mayor Smith is in the queue.
I'll wait for Chief Legrand's comments.
Okay.
I think we have a couple different folks who would like to provide you some information tonight, and thank you for the time to do this. I think the one thing that, we all have to recognize is that prior councils and this council have afforded us a lot of tools to handle and try to manage the problem as it exists. I think we have to be pragmatic enough with ourselves to understand that it's not going to just disappear and go away and never be there. But so what we have to do, our challenges is on a daily basis, is to manage the problem. And that management goes back to a lot of different things that we do. One of those things is something as simple as the Portland Loos. Having a public toilet available is important. I mean, and to that end, I believe that the toilet that was taken out of service at Bedrock Park, there were 2 porta potties that were put there in its place because we did recognize the value of a portable or of a public restroom in the area, because we know that's necessary. Another one of those things that the council has done in the past is provided the funding necessary for the Haven of Hope trailers so that clothes could be washed, people could take showers, things that a lot of us take for granted that aren't necessarily all that easily attainable when you're living unhoused in a community. So I think it's important, and the approach that we've always taken is that we do our best to respect everyone's rights as an individual and recognize them as individuals, and not just put them on a shelf as an inconvenient annoyance that is out there in our community that makes us uncomfortable. And believe me, they make me uncomfortable sometimes with some of the behavior and some of the things that they do, but we can't compartmentalize everybody as that individual. I mean, these are individuals that are oftentimes suffering from a multitude of problems, anything from addiction to mental health issues to you name it. I mean, it's a criminal camouflaging themselves in the homeless community, trying to hide out there to avoid responsibility for their behavior. There's all sorts of different things. So what we've done over the years in order to protect the city from liability and mitigate those impacts is that one of the things the council has afforded us is an increased and robust MLE program so that we can do a multitude of different things with those MLEs. As we come up to our number of positions that we can have, which is 17 at the department. Right now, we are currently nowhere near that. We are at 6 MLEs right now that are currently and actively working on the streets. One is working in evidence, another is assigned to dispatch. But as we get closer to those numbers of where we need to be, you'll see more robust patrols in the park, with ideas to have a couple MLEs dedicated to our park so that somebody is down there on a regular basis all the time doing that. You'll see MLEs that are more actively in the neighborhoods, doing the things that they should be doing down there, just checking on vacant things, moving through our neighborhoods. The challenge that we're facing right now is filling positions. It's been challenging for our department. I think it's challenging for everyone at all levels of employing people everywhere right now. For whatever reason, it's just difficult to find people, and then the people that we're looking for that we do find, they have to pass rigorous backgrounds and things like that, and unfortunately not everyone is coming up to the level in which we need them to in order to move forward in their career. So as you see that and as those come up, you'll see that we increase our patrols on the streets. You'll see an increased level of activity from our MLEs. They already do a good job, but we need to do more with them as we get more of them on there. We've also developed a community navigator program. That too has been subject to, it's been stagnant because of the lack of having anybody to coordinate that program. Right now, we're working with one volunteer. The idea is to get as many as possible. The best avenue toward that would be to increase that position, converting one of the MLE positions over into a full-time funded community navigator program so that we have a navigator that works for us full-time but also coordinates the volunteers so that we can get more people out there, get them more familiar, trained, and get a more robust program out there to help deal with the individuals so that when they are on properties and they're camping and they're causing different issues throughout the community, we can get them out there and get them at least directed to services. What that does for you down the road is that if we do have to deal with them in a more aggressive manner, such as some sort of enforcement action is taken and it is deemed that at some point we did something that we shouldn't have done, we have the ability to go back and say that, you know, we have been with this individual, we've offered services 27 times, they've been denied 27 times, and this is kind of what led to that. Now, it's not going to give you the, you know, the free pass, but but it may mitigate some of your issues down the road because you can demonstrate that, hey, we aren't just out there, trying to crush people and just move them along. We are working with them diligently, trying to connect them at least with available services that are out there. We've developed a very good working relationship with the rescue mission. I mean, and as everyone in here knows that, or should know, is that we're working toward the implementation and opening of Mission Esperanza. That is a pallet shelter located at the rescue mission on the property next to it. It's also an expansion of the mission and some services that are available out there, not only on-site, but they also have some off-site. It is a 30 non-congregate climate-controlled pallet shelter houses. I mean, so we got that coming in. We got 40 congregate beds coming in. There'll be safe spaces for tent camping and parking spaces. What that does for you is that allows you to move people off of public property because now you have somewhere for them to go. Because one of the big holdups in the case out of Idaho was that there was nowhere for the people to go. I mean, and when they asked, where should I go? Not my problem. Well, it suddenly became their problem. I mean, and they were allowed to reside on public space. So that was an issue. Park patrols are always an issue. We need to get people into our parks, especially once the council and Public Works gets done with Bedrock Park. We need to have people on a regular basis in there. We'll accomplish that through our Your MLE program. That will keep the folks moving along out of there. One of the things that we're currently working on too is a retail theft partnering. The latest iteration of that is in the past we've went into stores in regular clothes and been there and waited for people to shoplift and then make the arrest when they do the shoplifting that is occurring within the store. One of the things that we'd like to do to expand that is open up satellite offices for the police department in large retailers. We have been in talks with Walmart. Walmart is offering space, an internet connection so that we can actually assign a couple of our MLEs to work out of there. They will not be assigned to security there. They will not be Walmart employees. They will not be greeting you at the door, directing you to where something may be. They're going to simply be writing reports there, and what the idea is to have a physical presence to try to deter those that would be interested in doing some sort of crime by the physical presence, having the car out front, having the signage that's there, having the persons walking in and out to their vehicles to go handle other calls. If this is, we will see if this is successful at Walmart. If it's successful there, we'll offer the same program potentially to any other retailer that has space available, and we will move them around through there. We won't be leaving equipment there or anything like that. It'll be just a quick internet connection. We'll plug in a laptop and we'll be good to go and conduct our business that we need to do on site. So what we're trying to do is to help curb the amount of theft that's going on out of our stores because it's massive. Our Walmart, I believe they had $3.7 million in shrinkage last year that walked out the door. Now, granted, it is a very active Walmart. They did 127 million, I think, something like that. And I think the average Walmart does 72 million a year. So ours is very busy. But still, $3.7 million of product to walk out the door is a huge hit on any business. And if we can bring that down, that will actually assist all of us. And it will assist our city in economic opportunity and economic development because that will entice other retailers to look at us more seriously if we can do things to partner with our retailers to keep that kind of theft down. So with that, I would like to turn it over to Mr. Belser, who could talk about some community cleaning projects, and we'd be more than happy to answer any questions about what we're doing when we're done, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Belser.
When I talk about the things that we've been doing, I want you to keep in mind compassion and reasonableness. And that's been our platform for over 10 years. Roughly around 2014, Chief LaGrone was tasked with what are we going to do with the unhoused? How are we going to handle the unhoused? 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. He had the brainchild of the MLE program, and I was assigned to come up with policies and procedures and develop that program. And that has been an excellent program in dealing with not every issue, but a lot of the unhoused issues that we deal with on a daily basis. And again, this isn't a problem we're going to solve. This is a problem we're going to manage. The MLEs were trained how to treat people. on how to treat unhoused people, how to provide services, and still continue to do that to this day. Nothing has changed. Again, reasonableness and compassion. We are reasonable and compassionate to the unhoused when we contact them because we know that they have a series of issues and series of problems. Some of them, again, substance abuse issues, mental health issues, or a combination of both. And then Bill Legrone came up with the idea of the City Works program, which was a partnership with the Hope Center. And the idea behind this was to have individuals that were unhoused get treatment, join a team with the city, and do city jobs and be compensated for those city jobs, to build some pride, to address the issues that they were causing. And the beautiful thing about this program and what makes it work are these individuals can relate to the unhoused individuals that we contact out into the field. They've lived it, they've been there. It's not a cop telling you what you've done wrong. It's not an MLE telling you what's done wrong. It's not a person that's made every right decision in their life telling you what you've done wrong. It's individuals that have lived in those shoes, providing services to those individuals, option to those individuals, and ways to get them off the street. It's an excellent program. Again, it is still an active program, just like the MLE program. We entered into an agreement with the Department of Education and Social Services through Butte County with Housing Navigation. It's a 3-year contract that'll end in June of '25. We have unfettered access to housing navigators that go out with code enforcement when we do outreach with the unhoused. They provide, and one of the biggest challenges I see with all the money and all the jobs and all the services is being able to get to the right service to the right person. And what's excellent about housing navigation, and Kyle especially with the police department, who I really hope he can come to work as a full-time employee with the city, is they have the knowledge. They know all the working parts. They know if you have a mental health issue, where you need to go. If you're in danger of being unhoused, they know who to put you in contact with. If you need emergency bedding, they know how to get it to you. If you need food, they know how to get it to you. If you have behavioral health issues, they know how to get it to you. It's those experts that the city has partnership with, and in a growing partnership that has really helped get the people that want services. And I'll be honest, I've been dealing with this for 10 years, and there is a lot of service-resistant people. And I would bet, and I like to bet money, that it would be 90% of the people we come in contact with do not want services. And that's what really helped in the grants pass decision is people are service-resistant because they didn't have to accept services because they were protected by Martin B. versus Idaho. The Safeway Home Program, it was our Home for the Holidays program. We, in fiscal year 2023 to 2024, have reunited 26 unhoused people in the city limits of Oroville with family. I mean, some have went clear to the East Coast. We reach out, we offer the program to them. If we can make a connection with either services, whether it be mental health services, VA services, family services, we get them a bus ticket or whatever transportation is needed to connect them to those services. A lot of the individuals that we come in contact with are not from the state of California. They are not from Butte County. They are bused up here. They're left up here. They're problem people for other agencies that decided to move them our way. And this is one of the unique ways of dealing with this issue. I'd also say that, we have the Butte County Jail here in the city limits of Oroville. You'd be surprised the number of people that come to our casinos and end up stranded in Oroville, end up getting arrested, and they get let out of jail and they have no way to get back home. We provide, with the Safeway Home Program, we'll provide them transportation to get back home as long as we can connect with somebody on the other end that it's a legitimate situation. And I'll tell you, the Oroville Rescue Mission, the Hope Center, Jordan's Crossing, Father's House, all of them have been on board with this program, and it's been very successful. Meetings. Department of Education and Social Services, in order to get funding, had to come up with a regional plan in order for us to get our share of funding that was sent from the state of California to deal with the unhoused situation. I've attended at least 5 meetings with other agencies, Gridley, Chico, Paradise, Butte County, Oroville, and inside these meetings, we come up with ideas and plans where the money is going to go, and so we have a regional plan to deal with the unhoused. Point-in-time survey, when we talk about, I donate my entire team every year when we do the point-in-time survey, to where we go out and survey the unhoused and what their needs are and what services that they need. I will tell you the number one thing they always ask for is a bathroom. That's the one thing that they want to be able, and it's sad, and I know that it's the cost of doing business, and it is definitely just a handful of people that make it so hard on individuals. I can feel Fred's pain dealing with the Portland Loos. I know what has occurred at Hewitt Park and Bedrock Park, and it's unhuman. The behavior is absolutely hard to understand and hard to justify. And I know that that is not the biggest problem in the world today, but, you know, people that behave the way and take away good things from others should be punished, but unfortunately they're not. Code Enforcement Department, I was asked 3 or so years ago to do a standalone code enforcement department. These individuals, I have 6 employees that receive nonstop training on how to deal with the unhoused, how to go out and provide services. They go out with housing navigation, they go out with the police department, they go out with the MLEs. Again, the city of Oroville has done so much in the last 10 years to, again, be compassionate and be reasonable about how we manage this problem. Our constant work with Butte County, which I think is important. I mean, it is such a team effort to make all of this happen. People don't understand the amount of minutes or times. We're at 70%, over 70% of our efforts go to the unhoused at code enforcement. I know the police department can't be that far off. I know the MLEs aren't that far off. It's a huge burden on our resources, but it's not a problem that we've ever turned our back to or allowed to get out of control or said that it was okay to behave a certain way. Again, we follow the rules and we follow case law, and we're reasonable and compassionate about what we do.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Vice Mayor Smith is on the queue.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I think this was one of the longest staff reports, 7 pages collectively, between our city attorney and, of course, Mr. Belser and Mr. Legrone. Very comprehensive overview. It helps us to kind of get, as policy setters, kind of a good sense of what's been going on and some ideas into the future. And just sitting and listening to this and processing, remember the Andy Griffith Show? Yeah, all of us have probably watched that a time or two. Otis, the town drunk, when he had too much, he'd oftentimes check himself in because he knew it was a community standard when he crossed the line, right? But, you know, we don't live in that time anymore, unfortunately. There are, however, I have to say, coming from another part of the state, there are parts of Oroville that remind me of Mayberry. They really do. And kids do stay out and play until the street lights come on, which is pretty amazing. In fact, I brag about that to friends and family outside of our area because it is kind of unique and special. And I think to our law enforcement and to the good work of our staff, they're to be commended. That being said, obviously there are some service gaps, and I think just listening to our friends from Taco Bell and sharing, their frustration with, what's happening. And so for me, I think kind of isolating. I know there's a lot of focus on the housing issue and encampments, but you guys do a pretty phenomenal job overall. I mean, we see them pop up, but they don't last too long. So whatever you're doing, yeah, keep moving in that direction. It's more of, I think, two areas. It's behavioral issues. We all, from time to time, driving down Oro Dam, see the person standing in the middle of the street, and obviously there's something going on in there. Or, yelling to the moon. and getting that rapid response. So from a policy standpoint, those are things that concern me. So when we have a merchant calling for service, like the story I shared a couple of years ago when I was in one of our grocery stores locally, and there was an unhoused person in the back and had locked themselves in. And I'm being followed by one of the workers in the store, and I'm thinking they're thinking I'm going to shoplift. And I turned around, excuse me, can I help you? We're really scared. There's and they shared the story, and I thought, well, call OPD. Well, they don't respond. And it's now real or imaginary, that's a problem, because I think every citizen deserves, the opportunity when they feel unsafe to know that our, law enforcement care, and I know they do care. But it's that rapid quality response when we have obvious safety issues being displayed, whether it's the unhoused or anyone for that matter. And so for me as a policy setter, how can we best give you the tools necessary to maximize addressing those kinds of issues, and barring, circumstances beyond anyone's control when there's a major event. Obviously, you have to prioritize, and I get that as law enforcement. If you have a major situation, there are times when there are delays. But I think it's just the general public, our constituents knowing our law enforcement, our MLEs, our whole system is designed around public service and ensuring, and maximizing public safety. And I think the ideas in that 7-page report, they're great. And, obviously there's work to do, but I think, by and large, at least with the folks that came on this item, I think that's one of the things they're looking for. How can that service be improved? How can I be ensured that when I call for service, someone's going to show up, and that issue is going to be mitigated, addressed, and the services that individuals obviously needs, that we're going to be able to take in on the compassion side, that's going to be handled. And then the other part, so it's just two parts. So that, and then the second part is we have a lot of laws, rules, ordinances. For example, the CART ordinance, which was mentioned in this 7-page report. I think whenever government has laws on the books that aren't being enforced, that's an invitation to disrespect our rule of law, whatever that is. So I think we either need to remove it or enforce it. Because I think that just encourages bad behavior from anyone. It's like if you were driving out in the middle of the field and you came to a stop sign and there was miles and miles around with no one around, would you respect the stop sign, or would you just blow through it? Well, you all can answer that. Mm-hmm. So I think, again, whether it's the CART ordinance or any other tools in our toolbox to encourage good public behavior, because that was the other piece that was in this report, was that, with Prop 47 and some of the other things that were mentioned by Councilman Weber, and all of us from time to time just responding to this, that inadvertently, some of our ability to deal with this has been hampered. But I think we're quickly going to see that. I think the public's had enough, frankly. And so, what are we going to actively do as a city, as a community, to, step it up with whether it's a CART ordinance or any of these other tools? What can we do tomorrow? And then also, where are we at? So, I'm at a store and if somebody's scaring me because they're, yelling at the moon, what is the protocol there? How are we handling that? How are we, dealing with that on a minute-by-minute basis? So that's kind of my summation. But from where I sit, however we can best empower our city staff to, do the best job possible in mitigating this, I'm all for it. And so when this kind of stuff goes down, and it doesn't mean we're not going to stop this behavior, but that there's a process to quickly address it, whether it's a manager or owner or an employee, that they know that help is on the way, right? Thank you.
Councilman Thompson's next in the queue.
Thank you. I first want to say thank you to our staff Because just as you said, you know, the OPD and code enforcement, MLEs, from my experience and viewpoint, have acted very compassionately towards these individuals in our community. I very much agree with Councilman Smith as in regards to our citizens. I mean, just even the testimony today from owners of Taco Bell about the incidents they experience on a regular basis, and I know that they're not alone. You talk to anybody in town, homeowners, property owners, business owners. You know, you have the pendulum in society is often going one way or the other, and I think for a long time it has been on the compassion side, and not that we should swing that pendulum hard on the other side, but to find that balance, because compassion isn't just towards the unhoused, but compassion is also towards the business owners, the homeowners, a balanced compassion, and not just to be favoring one who is abusing the system and looking over the violations or the victims who are facing with this. So actually, I, as a councilman, would look towards you know, our staff, our code enforcement, our law enforcement individuals, maybe working with maybe we can put together I hate committees, but a committee within this dais that could work together with our attorney to put more tools, because I know that, you know, you who are working at the tip of the spear in regards to issues, you would know if we only had this aspect, this tool in our belt, that would make things much more effective. You know, since your boots on the ground, I think your viewpoint to how to better address this so that it is a balanced approach of compassion towards all of Oroville and not just the citizens, not just the unhoused, where it's balanced for everybody. I would very much be in favor of that because I think not just city council people, but anybody who's around town hears the outcry from homeowners, property owners, business owners. And the last thing we want is to make an environment where businesses, homeowners, families, you know, where they feel slighted or put to the side and don't feel welcome to enjoy the parks, open a business. So it's just you know, just finding that balance. And so I would be open to the city having this council having a committee working together. Yeah, just so it's like working together and figuring out what can we do as a council with these new legal cases that have been decided that would benefit all of our citizens. I'm done.
Councilman Johnstone is next.
Thank you. I'm in agreement with Councilman Thompson as far as forming a committee and working with Dave to see what we can do. I 100% agree that our code enforcement, our MLEs, everybody that's working Butte County, there has been great steps made. I know we have a lot of work that we need to do to make sure that our business owners and our residents feel safe and secure living in and just being a part of Oroville, but I do think that you guys are doing a fabulous job and keep up the good work on that. I believe that we do need to find a balance, though. I think that we do really show a lot of compassion to the unhoused, but I know our residents and our tax-paying citizens need to feel that same kind of compassion as well. So forming a committee, putting ordinances in place that can even further our agenda of making sure that we all live in a safe, happy, thriving community is something that's very important to me. So I would like to be a part of that committee if that's the way we go. Thank you. You're doing a great job.
Councilman Weber's up next.
Thank you very much. So I have a lot to say on this, so please bear with me. I'll try to make it as easy as I can. But the Hemet is a city down south that actually adopted an ordinance after the Grants Pass decision was passed. And I've read the white paper on the Hemet decision. It's great language. I would encourage us to look at the Hemet ordinance that they passed, which is in line with the Grants Pass decision. But there's a compassionate piece in there that is exactly what we're talking about. We talk about all these different programs that were implemented, the municipal law enforcement, the City Works program, and then, of course, that's expanded down, and Ron and his team does an unbelievable job with them, and Butte Community Service. I see you guys all over and doing a great job. Municipal law enforcement's all over the place. Something to remember, too, that we are in a national shortage of qualified individuals that want to actually go into law enforcement these days. This isn't just an Orville problem. This is everywhere problem. And I think the pendulum is going to eventually swing back on that, but I think that it's where we are now. The OPD isn't understaffed at the municipal law enforcement level or even the officer level due to lack of trying, because I know they're trying. Recruitment is just hard. The key here being qualified, because you could hire anybody, but does that mean you're going to hire the right people, the ones that pass backgrounds, that have the physical and mental aptitude to actually do the job? So we could hire anybody we want, but then that could get us into a whole bunch of problems. So I would encourage us to look as a body at the HEMET ordinance, to look at that. Compassion is really important, and I've been asking this to people lately. Of course, we have this responsibility to be compassionate, and I too would love extending a hand of compassion. My mom taught me a philosophy when I was a little boy. She used to tell me, Shawnee, we don't look down upon nobody unless we're willing to give them a hand up. And I love that philosophy, because that's the only way I'm ever going to look down upon somebody, because you know why? I've been out on those very streets. I've been homeless, addicted, and afflicted. I've been hopeless and without any place to go. Me too. And awesome. Look at you now, huh? So, but you can overcome those circumstances, right? And compassionate help is part of that. Right at the right moment, the compassionate hand can reach in, and then you can reach up and grab that hand, and then before you know it, you're up and running, and you yourself then can turn around and offer that compassionate hand. But here's my question for anybody that can look at the current climate that we're in right now with this, and I will confidently and boldly say that this is a man-made epidemic, because we got bad policy, we got bad people that passed bad laws, and we were duped with the name, the Safe Neighborhoods and Schools Act, the Prop 47. I'm not saying it was intentional, but the name said Safe Neighborhoods and Schools Act, and then there was all this stuff in there that did all this stuff, and then now we see the results of it. Is it compassion to sit by and watch our unhoused neighbors smoke themselves to death slowly with fentanyl poisoning? I don't think so. But to the points of everybody on this dais that just talked to, we also have to look at quality of life, compassionate enforcement of these things for the people that have businesses, that rent homes, that own homes, or whatever. We have to have compassion for both. It has to be a balancing act. So I've read that HEMET paper, and I would encourage us to look at us. I respect the idea of maybe forming a committee, but I mean, there's already been a ton of work done on, and we could look at that and possibly adopt that. Mission Esperanza is opening soon. Nothing's going to change as far as us offering up a place to go. They're still going to offer it. To the point earlier when Ms. Draper got up and talked about the paper that she has, we've been handing that out between code enforcement, the OPD. What did we get, 5,000 of them or something like that? And now we have to reorder more. We've given out like 5,000 of those in a year. And the success ratio with the Community Navigator program has been phenomenal in offering them services and building relationships, right? With behavioral health and the Butte County Housing Navigator and all these things. That idea was spawned from a conversation with Bill and I one Sunday afternoon, just talking about what does it look like to be a compassionate police force in our community. And then before we know it, the Community Navigator program was birthed. Sounds to me like a lot of really good ideas came from conversations with Bill in regards to municipal law enforcement, City Works, Community Navigator, all kinds of great stuff has been birthed just from conversations. So the MLE, City Works, Community Navigator, Butte County Housing Navigator, Behavioral Health, they all work together to extend this compassionate piece. We talked about the Fourth Amendment, unlawful searches. We talked about 14th Amendment, storage of property. Do we have a major issue with unlawful search issues right now at all in the city? No. Okay, is that something that we really got to be worried about?
So I just want to point out the Grants Pass decision and these other cases we've been discussing principally deal with these issues on public land, so I realize that there are concerns from private landowners and businesses that are on private property. The main thrust of the presentation has to do with public property, but it's no less an enforcement issue. Certainly, whenever you're going to separate someone from property and enforcement and action, or you tell them to go and then they go and you come back and you find property there, whether it had previously been known to be unattended or is unattended at that point, there is a reasonable, potentially rebuttable presumption that, you take possession of that property, you know that it's not really purposefully abandoned. So you are going to have some storage obligations. To stay out of trouble, you need to consider that, especially the 14th Amendment, issue, for sure, in terms of hanging on to property for people so that they get a chance to recover it.
Okay. Well, thank you for answering that, but I was actually specifically asking about Fourth Amendment. We have,
Fourth Amendment is similar.
Okay.
So, there was a Fourth Amendment case involving the disposal of bulky property without really going through it. That's one of the, the cases from Southern California I cite in the staff report. And by the way, I really encourage everybody to pull the staff report off the website and read, all of the different details, because it took a long time to put together. So there's a lot of value in the thought process and the detail that went into that. So one of the cases that did implicate the Fourth Amendment had to do with taking possession, immediately disposing of bulky property because it was bulky, and that was an unlawful search, and that's how that one, ended up in the mix. So I think you have to look at the Fourth Amendment and 14th Amendment kind of collectively when you're talking about property and how you manage it, how you dispose of it, that kind of thing.
thank you for that explanation. Now, my next question for you would be then, can you define property?
There is a definition of property in the Department of Transportation guidelines, and that is that it is any item that has a monetary value of $50 or more.
Okay.
Is considered to be property that needs to be retained. But I would also put to you the proposition that property also includes things that have a more intrinsic value or a sentimental value potentially, or they may have not so much a subjective or objective monetary value, but a subjective aspect to it that has value, like legal papers or those other kinds of important documents. Photographs, I guess you can consider them just, tokens, but to people, they mean a lot. And throwing away people's personal photographs, can be really harmful. So you have to take a look at some of those very highly personal, individualized items, and I think you include them, frankly.
Okay. So if we were to adopt an ordinance like, for instance, the language in the Hemet ordinance.
Our firm wrote that ordinance.
Okay. Well, then you're very familiar with it.
I didn't personally, but I can be
Okay.
familiar, and I can source the people who
I've
actually
read
worked on it.
And bravo to your firm, because I think it's an embodiment of what the Grants Pass case is trying to really say. It has a compassion piece. It's very gentle in its approach. It's not heavy-handed. And I think that's what we've already been doing. We've already had this compassionate, gentle extension of our enforcement agencies. The only difference being is that the Boise case said we could not do something because it was unconstitutional as cruel and unusual punishment under the Eighth Amendment, and now that's been removed. They said it was cruel and unusual because sleep was a biological necessity, but that's been removed. So now we have that as a little bit more of a tool, not as a sledgehammer, just a tool. I don't propose that we leverage that in such a heavy-handed way that we draw attention to ourselves. But I think that if we adopted the ordinance and then offered up reasonable storage for property, for instance, like how could we do that? Could we put a couple of 20-foot connexes on the courtyard, which be locked down, and then put compartments in them, and then we store the property for 60 days, giving them reasonable time to come get it? I think that we could meet those expectations if we build the system. But honestly, I don't think we have to do much other than what we're already doing. I think it would just be advantageous and wise of us to look at adopting something like the Hemet language after the Grants Pass decision was given, because now we have it. It shows we're doing something. We're taking a little bit of an action. And then we could also build the program wherein we store the property, whatever the property may be, and then give them opportunity to get it in a timely manner. I would also love to entertain us furthermore funding the the community navigator position. If it's the will of this council to do so, I would love to see that happen because I think the community navigator has shown unbelievable potential. Do you happen to know off the top of your head how many hours he's donated?
It's in the report.
Well over 1,000?
It's in the
Okay.
report.
I know he's been there for like a year now, right? Yeah. And so, dedicated. And to Ron's point, you even said that you hope he gets the employment because you've seen the results of him in action, building those relationships and offering the services. So I think that if we do this, then we could, it's all about tools, right? What's in our toolbox? You guys already got some awesome tools. You've already been doing amazing work with the limited tools you have. And so now we could give you just a little bit more of a tool in a very compassionate way, and then bring on the community navigator in a full-time position, expanding those services because we already know that people want to come and volunteer for those. So I think this is an amazing opportunity for us to do some amazing work for our community, is what I'm trying to get at. Let me look over my notes. And if we did that, I would like to also encourage us to consider establishing maybe, I don't know what to call it, but maybe a park patrol. You know, I'm just using that term loosely, but something wherein the navigator and an MLE can travel around from park to park in our side-by-side or whatever, making contact, practicing presence, because we all know that presence changes atmosphere, right? You know, it's the more presence we practice, the more they're going to understand. The more we say, hey, you know, you can't do that here. We understand that you want to smoke fentanyl all day, but you can't do that here, right? And so, you know, we can compassionately tell them that, right? You know, it's your right to smoke fentanyl all day, I suppose, under the California state law as it currently is written. But right now, you're not going to do it right here. So anyway, there's my thoughts. I rambled on and on. I hope it made sense in some way to you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Weber. I'm up in the queue next, and I'm going to offer a few brief comments. One of them is we'd asked for a policy about taking care of the freeway overpasses in the community and stopping what's been going on there for some time. And there has been a response by, you know, the city to clean that area up and try to hinder that. One of the things I was going to have is that issue to bring to the executive committee to talk about that, and maybe that's a place to look at that and throw the HEMT ordinance in the executive committee so we could get that process moving up real quick. If that ordinance, you know, fits. The other issue is 2 years ago, we saw the need to improve the security in our parks. And there was a suggestion about hiring private security for just our parks. And that was offered up to the police department, said, let's have more MLEs. Well, fine and dandy. We authorized 17 MLE positions, but we don't have 17 MLEs serving our public. So now we're going to have to sit around and wait for the MLEs to get recruited and hired. I'm proposing that we hire at least private security for 6 months or a year so that our parks are covered as soon as possible. And I'm not saying private security is the end result, but we got to have something that just for along our parks. I'm just making the suggestion at this point because I know some cities do in fact do that. And it's a stopgap. It's not the permanent thing. And if we have it for 6 months to a year while they get the MLE positions filled, so be it. But I think that might be a reasonable thing to take a look at. And then I'm suggesting maybe some portable bathrooms, maybe, in lieu of opening up the loo down there or somewhere, just to think about that. The reason I say portable bathrooms, they're not as hard to destroy. I know I spent half my life in them in the fire service, so yeah. The other thing that I want to throw out here too is the MLEs have been critical to helping our business owners. I know they run around early in the morning and run off the population that's sitting at their front doors. And that's been a very good thing because if the homeowner, or not the homeowner, but the business owner runs those people off, what happens the next night? Those people come back and break out the windows. And you're shaking your heads. And I think, in fact, that did happen to your front door. So the MLEs provide that factor that they're going to blame the MLEs, not you, the business owner. So I totally think the MLEs can be a solution. But damn it, we got to get those positions filled ASAP. And that isn't serving our public if we don't have those filled. And that's why I'm saying I'm not suggesting the private security for the MLEs replacement, but just for our parks, just along the trail and for our parks, so that our vandalism, I think we'd probably just save money in vandalism alone if we had that presence to our parks that's going on. The other item here that I want to throw out is we have a good investment in our flock cameras, which are license plate reading cameras. And I saw something the other day, and I'm just going to ask staff to inquire about it. It appeared to me that Flock is going to offer those same cameras to private businesses. And if that be the case, then that might be a great thing, because they're all tied into our police department activities. The Flock cameras are all over town. I'm not sure how many we have. Do you have a number?
40, sir.
40 cameras around town. If the private businesses might entertain using that same system and it ties into the police department, it might be a very good thing. I just suggest that we inquire about that, if that in fact is the case. I've seen some advertisement about it. I don't know what it means. I'm not the Flock representative. But Mr. Belser seems to nod his head, know what I'm talking about. So those are things I think are on our task list to look at to help this process move along. I certainly think we've got a lot of good suggestions up here to move along. And I'm just throwing out the executive committee for some of the items. We may form another committee specific to the topic you're talking about. If we find in the executive committee that we can get enough work to do that, I think that would be a good thing. That's about all I had. Is just, again, staff, appreciate what's been going on here. I'm going to say this because I served on the Homeless Coalition for 3.5 years and some of those surveys. And one of the things that just I've never forgotten is that this area does have compassion. It does provide services. And many of the reports from the individuals out on the street said, I don't really want to be homeless, but if I got to be homeless, I want to be homeless in Oroville or Chico. So that's a good and bad statement at the same time, if you follow what I'm trying to say. So there's a lot of good people doing a lot of good work here, and I certainly don't want to deter any of that. But at the same time, we have a security issue that we have to find solutions to. And it can't happen that it's going to be at the cost of our business community at all. And that's just can't happen. So those are my thoughts on that. We'll see where we go. Councilman Thompson's up on the queue.
Yeah, just some added thoughts, and you stole what I was going to say with one of them in regards to porta potties. Absolutely. You know, when you have, I can't remember the exact cost in those Portland News.
Yeah.
It was close to $1 million after installation. It was about
That's
$700,000-$800,000, right?
And then in a short amount of time, the damage,
It's been,
the disrespect.
yes. Ironically enough, the one at Bedrock has suffered the least amount of damage.
That's great.
The population there was actually shepherding it, if you will, taking care of it. There was only a small warming fire and a little bit of graffiti, but
So-
Centennial's been bad.
I'm not sure the exact cost for a few porta potties, but I'm sure it's less than $1 million.
It is for sure.
Yeah.
Before we go on, do we have cards on this item?
I have a few more things.
Go
I
ahead,
want to say.
yeah.
Also, I would not, as far as the executive, if they did, I don't care, as long as it gets done. I think Tracy mentioned that she wanted to be, she's fine. As long as it gets done, as long as something moves forward, as long as it gets done.
Okay.
And then your idea on private security, I would second that. You know, whatever needs to be done. Again, it's like we're at the point, I think the whole community and us included, is whatever needs to get done right now, let's get it done so we have a safer community. I mean, no slight against our staff, because they're doing a lot. Just maybe a little more hands on deck would help.
For sure.
And then I just also want to echo the sentiments that you mentioned. A lot of good points. So I just want to. But it absolutely, as far as, you know, when you have a unhoused individual camping out on a property, I know for sure there is fear from the property owners of, if you address or approach the person and tell them to leave or whatnot, then there's broken windows is not uncommon after you ask somebody to leave. And I've personally experienced that several times. And so having, you know, more help to alleviate that would be just great. So a lot of good points. And as long as we can see things, you know, the government's good on talking about issues. So as long as we can get some action in place to, I'm not saying because we do a lot of good stuff, but as long as we get some action in place to help deal with this, I'm 100% in seeing this expedited.
Well, and I will add, not very many communities can make the statement that they cleared out 42 camps last month.
Right.
And that's happening every month with his department, so that's a big plus. Councilman Weber, you're back on the queue?
Yeah, thank you. I was just, can you guys clarify where you're talking about with the porta potties?
Wherever it's necessary.
Oh, okay.
And I'm just, one of the things that we closed off one down at Bedrock Park, and if you put a porta potty outside of that so that we don't have to,
Yeah.
Interrupt the fencing that's there, maybe. It's to staff's recommendation. I don't care.
No, I was just trying to
Yeah.
clarify, because I thought I heard, did you say there was porta potties down there already, or? Yeah, there is.
They might be there, yeah.
Yeah, they're there.
Okay.
So,
All
okay.
right.
And then, secondly, with all due respect to the executive committee, I would oppose it going to executive committee. If we're going to form a committee, I would like to be on that committee as well. And I'm not on the executive committee.
Okay.
So I'd prefer that we form an ad hoc committee for this purpose, because I would like to also be on that committee.
Okay.
And I agree with, I agree with everything you were just saying, and Councilmember Thompson too, about the expediency and urgency of this is,
Okay.
Let's not let this become a,
No.
something that gets bogged down in the bureaucratic.
This is obviously something to work on.
Yeah.
Vice Mayor Smith, I know we probably have, how many cards do we have on this?
We have 3, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so,
Yeah, I was just going to offer my support, a community navigator program, where, there's those immediate interventions. I'm just completely in support of that because, again, going back to these incidences that are, people are experiencing real time. And so as much as that we can have that intervention, that's effective to just mitigate that, I'm fully in support of that because I see that as being an effective tool to get it done. So, and then obviously there's a lot of great ideas up here, but again, I think it comes back to, what can we do now?
yeah, exactly.
And to mitigate this issue. Thank you.
Okay.
Yep.
Let's open it up to public for the comment cards we have. How many do we have?
We have 3.
Okay.
Up first, we'll have Ann Terry, followed by Celia Hirschman.
Welcome, Annie.
Is this on? Oh, it's,
Yeah.
oh, good, it's on. Okay. So I just wanted to, I've worked in the Oroville community for a little over 20 years, working with the homeless. I don't see myself as a homeless advocate. I see myself as a housing advocate. I truly believe that the solution to homelessness is housing. I truly believe that nobody on the dais or in the theater blames the problem of homelessness on the homeless, but we do blame the problem of criminal activity on the criminal. I truly believe that the solution to this is to deal with the criminal element that is causing the majority of the problems and not the homeless in particular. I think what we need to do is exactly what we're doing in addressing homelessness. The police, the Community Navigator Program, the agencies in Butte County and in Oroville specifically who deal with the homeless, and code enforcement are all doing an amazing job to try to mitigate the problem of homelessness. Criminal activity is at the heart of the problem that we're dealing with in Oroville. Things like the problem at Taco Bell. I truly believe that we all were at any of our own children in that situation. We would do anything we could to get them to accept the help that it's going to require for them to become housed. There definitely is an element in Oroville and in every community that refuses services. A lot of people are service resistant. I want to encourage us as a community to come up with an Oroville solution. I'm not saying Hemet didn't have a great idea, and I haven't read that. I'm definitely going to go home and read it, though. But I think what we're doing is a lot better. When I first moved here to Oroville a lot of years ago, Oroville was considered by a lot of people in this area to be the armpit of Butte County. And I think we're doing a lot to change that. And I think that we're doing an excellent job in dealing with homelessness as a community problem. I think we also need to deal with punishing the criminal element and without punishing those who seriously have mental health issues. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you, Annie.
Thank you. Up next, we have Celia Hirschman, followed by TJ Jensen.
I just wanted to say that I really echo what Annie said because I heard the word homeless so much in the last hour and a half. And really, I think the problem is criminals doing criminal activity and mentally ill who are mentally ill, and that is something that we do need to address as a community because it exists. But I run the tiny pantry on Montgomery and First, and I have probably 75 to 100 people, many of whom are unhoused, or in cars, who come to get food. I'm not even talking about the people who donate every day. And I've never seen a brochure on the community care that you offer. And I would really, my name is Celia Hirschman. I'd love to talk to you about that. I do have Linda Draper's, and I've gotten something from the Butte community, the people who have the food bank, and they've been incredibly helpful over the years. And I do think that a lot of people, especially downtown, know a lot about this firsthand. Not so much the criminal activity, although there's that, and the mental health, but also the fact that people are hungry. And it would be great to distribute that to the community so people knew there were services and could refer people to you instead of waiting for you having to find them. We'd love to know. And there are a lot of compassionate people out here who really do want to help. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, could I just?
Sure. Vice Mayor Smith is up real
Yeah,
quick.
I do really appreciate OCDC's work on this with our local PD and having that brochure. I've put out hundreds of those, and I have them over there next door at the chamber office. So, whether you could give more to me, and I could be a point of distribution for folks like yourself, but and/or other documents that help with facilitating, that kind of information. Whether Ms. Draper's efforts, I think all those things are great. Ways to engage folks. And I regularly get unhoused folks at my office. And so that's the piece I go to. Thank you. But thank you for that, bringing that up.
And thank you. Up next, we have TJ Jensen.
Yeah. Welcome, TJ.
I won't bore you too long. I want to say it's incredible, the compassion that this city has. From a business perspective, I don't have a lot of compassion. So I appreciate what you guys do, because the conversation hasn't talked about anything but compassion. Oroville is compassionate to a sector of the community that really needs it, and I am very appreciative of that. But what I took out of it, and I didn't plan on speaking, was kind of what how I met Sean was in discussion of Prop 36. So if we don't have the ultimate decision of that passing, business owners, store owners are going to continue to go out of business. We lost 5 in 10 days. 5 business owners in 10 days. All of them sat at my desk in the last 10 days. That's an incredible amount of wealth that just left by investment, employees, and it's strictly to do with lack of interest in Oroville to do business. There's no interest to do business when this is all we discuss. So Prop 36 is huge. That's all I can think about is getting that passed. What bothers me is the comparison of 24 months to hook up utilities, but in 1 month we can take 42 camps and remove them. The legislation on PG&E, because of the state and oversight and environmental, is the problem. There's a huge impact when investors are coming to me to build homes and have to go somewhere else because of those length of times. They have money to build, they want to build now. I mean, by now, 24 months would be great. That is huge. And we've often forget that Berry Creek burned to the ground. I don't know how many hundreds of people we fed for weeks on end at Lakeside. Those people don't have money. They're back on their land, living in trailers and tents. Berry Creek isn't what it was. It will never come back. They don't have the infrastructure that they barely had before. So you guys are doing a fantastic job placing those types of people as well. The compassion's amazing. But don't forget, the only thing that generates money are stores and employees working in those stores. If we don't get the discussion happening soon, there's not going to be anything left to support the compassion. That's all I ask. But I appreciate everything you guys are doing. That's
Thanks, TJ.
amazing.
Thanks, sir. Is that it for the
That's
card?
all I have for submitted public comment cards.
Okay. How much of the topic, or did you want to? Okay. I think we have some considerable amount of direction to work on a number of issues. We'll start off with the exec committee, and then we may follow up with another separate ad hoc committee, so we can get all these things together and take a look at staff and bring these things down to an assignment view. So I guess is a word to say.
Please forgive me, Mr. Mayor, could we specifically, because I would like to specifically give direction on to like a timeline of when we could,
Right.
like if we're going to fund the navigator.
Right. Well, I think if we go to the exec committee, we take these suggestions and put them all together, like in the next week to 10 days, and then come back to the next council with exec committee recommendations. And yeah, and the appointments necessary to, function on that particular topic. So we focus the ad hoc committee on their goal of what to get done. I think it was probably a great way to go at this point, because there's been a lot of discussion, a lot of things to work on. There's a lot of things in this 8-page memo that, we could, expand upon. The suggestion on the navigator position, the suggestion on the shopping cart issue.
Oh,
Yeah, there's a number of things. So I think it's easier to do on the exec committee, and then we'll kind of ferret it out and assign as needed. And like you say, bring an ad hoc committee for something like the Hemet ordinance discussion. I think it's probably the best way to go, and we'll get that going, so we'll have a recommendation for the next council meeting if we can make that time happen. And
Yeah, that might be, it might be
Right.
challenging to get it on the 3rd of September. We could certainly start, I think the 17th is probably more
Right.
reasonable, just.
Right. And the reason I'm saying the exec committee, because that's a recorded committee, and it, it has the whole open, so anybody can come and, offer comment and discussion. Anybody from the public can do that. So we'll put that together and get back to follow up on. And of course, staff suggestions and recommendations will certainly be in that executive committee meeting. Anyone else from departments, comments? Y'all did a good job. Thank you. The public heard a lot today. We've gone on for a little bit more than normal, but I hope everyone got a chance an opportunity to discuss. The item was the topic, and it's certainly complicated. We'd like to make it simple, but it's not. And many of us thought, oh goodness, finally the Supreme Court did something for us, and they did. A little bit, just a little bit. And we're going to go down the path. We invite all contributions of discussion, not just today, but in the future. Somebody might walk out the door and have a great idea. Please share it with us. That's sometimes what happens. We all collectively got the information, then something comes up as a great idea. So,
If I may, Mr. Mayor, I think one thing I heard from just about everybody, the audience and from the dais is the presence, compassion, the criminal activity, the being out there every single day, and the more I thought about this, is I feel, and obviously we could talk about it at the committee, is really, we need to figure out a way to staff up the MLEs. And
Yeah.
ultimately, if we had 17 MLEs, we'd have more presence. We'd have more activities in the park. We wouldn't obviously need security. We'd be able to address the issues at Taco Bell more effectively. So I think that might be because again, I have to say, I'm so impressed with the staff and the council have already accomplished. I mean, the things that have already been talked about you don't see those everywhere else. You really don't. So we have a really strong foundation here. I think ultimately, if we can figure out a way to get creative and get these MLE positions staffed with the right people, I think that would be a huge benefit to the city.
Okay, so we'll follow up as soon as possible with the executive committee recommendations and get back to y'all. And we appreciate everyone's input tonight. This is not a simple topic. It's very complicated. And we look forward for more work. Thank you all. Okay, next item is we need to do our public hearing. We're late for that, so I'm going to quickly run to our public hearing that was supposed to happen at 5:15. Where's that? I'll open the public hearing for the general plan amendment, GPA 24-01, and zoning code amendment, ZC 24-01. Staff. There you go.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Thank you so much for taking the time today to have a public hearing.
Would you let the audience know your name?
Hello. My name is Christina Heredia, and I am one of the planners here with the city.
Thank you, Christine.
We're going to discuss two properties that are located on Robinson Street between Bird and Oak. The two YMCA properties, 1650 Robinson and 1684 Robinson. They have been vacant for several years as the YMCA has attempted to sell these. They have been unsuccessful, and they have asked the city for assistance in this matter. Wait, hold on a sec. Next slide, please. There we go. Okay, so the current zoning of those two properties, this is a zoning map of part of our downtown area. The green square is just where we're zooming in on. And those two blue properties, blue means public use, government use, nonprofit, educational facilities. It is very limited in what kind of land uses are permitted in that zone. And so the YMCA approached the city, and the city initiated a rezone to change it from PQ, public facility, to mixed use. Which, next slide, please. Sorry, my thing's not working. Actually, go back one. There we go. Okay, so the rezone would change them on this map from blue, which is public, to red, which is mixed use. A mixed use zone is ideal for the downtown area. It provides for residential and commercial development. It provides for employment opportunities. And as you can see on the zoning map, it's more in line with what the zoning is that you see in that area. And so staff is in support of this. Miss City Clerk, next slide, please. So part of that includes a general plan amendment. The general plan land use designations are what the city envisions these properties will be in the future and what our goal is. However, PQ is no longer a ideal zone or general plan land use designation for this area. And so along with a rezone, we have to amend the general plan designation. So again, we're going to go from public, which is that blue square, to mixed use, which is orange. There are several motions I have today. One is to hold the public hearing. We also have a recommended motion to adopt the ordinance, which will change the zoning from public facility to mixed use downtown. And then the resolution which accompanies that, which is to change the land use designation from public to mixed use as well. And then I can answer any questions that you guys may have. I have the applicant and the representative of the YMCA here as well. And that is my presentation.
Council have any comments or questions? Seeing none, do we have any comment cards on this public hearing?
Yes, we do, Mr. Mayor. We have two.
All right.
We'll begin with Celia Hirschman and follow that with Al Zeeb.
Okay. So Celia's not needed. Who is the other one?
Al Zeeb.
Alzi.
Gentlemen, I live just across from PEP Housing. I am vehemently opposed to this mixed use. We don't need it. We already have Super 8 Motel, 3 stories, PEP Housing. One block down, you want to build 5 stories with your mixed use. I know what mixed use is. I don't want it there. I want that pool reopened. Leave it public. I want the pool reopened. YMCA got the Civic Center, and they set up operations there. They're getting a bonus from the city to do that. Then they closed that pool. I couldn't figure out why they're doing it. Well, this was in the planning for years. How many, 2-3 years? Yeah. So they closed that pool, and a lot of people, a lot of seniors who use that pool were denied. There's nothing wrong with the pool. There's no damage over there. But the water is out of the pool, and that's going to create the pool to crack. Pool needs to be refilled. Hire somebody to reopen it, get lifeguards, and make it a public pool. You take this away, Orville does not have a pool anymore. Nelson Pool is not Orville. That's by Thermalito. We don't have a pool. When the YMCA was going to take over the Civic Center, we were told to make this grand pool, this beautiful pool. It never got built. Now you're doing this, and you're trying to create this monolith structure right next to the area where some expensive homes, old homes, have been renovated. And people have hopes of creating a nicer Orville, you know, and you're shoving this in their face. And it'll be low income too. And low income people, they cruise the neighborhood and they steal. So I don't want that there. Also, I need to also say, my time's almost up. Notice of exemption? No, I don't want Gavin Newsom's new exemption to step aside the environmental review. I want SECA environmental review. And Governor Newsom, as far as I'm concerned, his plan for these exemptions is going to be challenged. So anyways, my time's up. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
That's all I have for submitted public comment.
Okay. What's the pleasure of the council? Did you say we have the applicant here too?
TJ is the representative of the
okay.
YMCA.
Motion that we adopt the item as presented in the agenda.
A second.
We're a second. Roll call, please.
Motion passes with 6 yeses and 1 absent.
Thank you all. Appreciate the comments. I guess I'll close the public hearing now.
Thank you.
Now we'll get back to agenda item number 11. Which is consolidation to modify tower and ground lease agreement with the Verizon Wireless Tower.
Guess I'll kick this one off, Mr. Mayor. The city has had an arrangement with Verizon for, about 7 years, I think since 2016, for a lease space on the tower over there on the levee. We're in the second iteration of a 5-year lease with Verizon for this lease arrangement. Verizon reached out to us, the city, in April of this year and requested to renegotiate the current lease arrangement with the city. they expressed that they're in the process right now of expanding the 5G network within the city. And with 5G, they need multiple towers closer together in order to spread have the signal be appropriately dispersed. So in looking at this, they presented two options to the city. One is a reduction in the current lease amount of about 36%, or a one-time payment made to the city in exchange for a 40-year easement to the ground, basically to the tower and to the ground lease that's right beneath the tower. We've had multiple conversations with Verizon. We do have Verizon as well. I believe they're participating on the phone here remotely. It is there's three options. We can continue to lease as we have it in place right now, and Verizon has expressed they'll likely terminate the lease at some point in the near future. We can reduce the amount on an annual basis, or we can take a one-time payment of $360,000 and then work with them to grant them a 40-year easement. And after analyzing this, I believe staff would recommend the third option there, to take in the lump sum payment of $360,000 for a one-time payment and use those monies, obviously internally, and work on an easement with Verizon. And I'm happy to answer the questions, and certainly we have Paul Walker from Verizon on the phone to answer any technical questions as well.
Councilman Weber's on the queue.
Yeah, thank you very much. What is the current lease amount then?
It is currently $2,280 a month.
And what would be the modified amount at that reduction of 35% then?
It would be $1,500 a month with a 10% escalator every 5 years.
Okay, so let me do some math real quick. That's 40 years. Or we settle for $360,000 now.
If you invest $360,000 now, put it in a LAIF account at 3% over 40 years, try that one. It could, that one, you can't ever predict what the interest rates are going to be, but at 3%, at 3 or 4%, I believe it'd be significant.
I don't know. I think the 35% reduction, if they must have it, is probably the better deal. I don't think we would be very smart to take $360,000 or whatever right now and call it good for 40 years.
The easement would be for 40 years, and if at some point in time they determine they no longer need the ground lease in the tower, after we're working, we'd have to work on the easement arrangement with them, but we express a desire if they no longer need that after 3 years, then it reverts back to the easement would be abandoned, it'd revert back to the city's property, and then there would be no repayment needed of that $360,000.
So am I missing something, or do we have to give them a reduction at all? I mean,
No, we don't.
okay, so
Well, and Thompson, you're on the queue. I don't want to interrupt you, but go ahead if you want to add something. Okay. Councilman Johnstone's in the.
Oh, wait, no, I want to add something.
Okay.
Try to balance my words with some compassion, because I'm currently a Verizon customer. I counting the days down until my Verizon contract is over. It's how I feel about Verizon. The cost per person is not that much for how much they charge to come up with that. I did the math. For what I'm paying, it's about 20 people pays for their lease. Which is, this is a nationwide company here. 20 people. I wish that I could talk to Verizon and have them reduce my phone bill from about $110 per person. And that was after about a month of me on the phone arguing with him because the Verizon wireless specialist in the office lied to me, and they acknowledged that they lied in their agreement with me. So I'm not a fan. I'll say this to the person on the phone. I'm not a fan of Verizon or the way they treat Orville citizens. And there's a little bit of just a little bias. So, yeah, maybe if they're kinder to their customers, they might get a little, but when it comes back to bite. So I am not in favor of it all. Their cost, I mean, if they want to go build another tower somewhere, there's big costs in that. They actually came to a property that I currently am in partly manage of and look to lease new land. That's not cheap to lease new land and go into agreement versus, $2,200 a month. It's comparatively, it's not that bad. So personally, with the experience I've had with Verizon, which is not good, I'm not in favor of reducing their cost. And I think just to be honest, the $1,500 a month, the lump sum, it brings it down to $750 a month, and that's even escalated out for 40 years. So yeah, for me, it is what it is. Just like if I call them and ask them to reduce my costs, they're going to tell me the same thing. So what goes around comes around.
And if I may, we've had similar conversations internally with staff, and we've been presented with the two options they presented to us, and we inquired and tried to figure out, okay, what if we stay with the option that we have right now, and it's just been expressed that there are other options out there. We asked what they were, and we don't know what those are at this time. It'd be a risk that the city takes to lose that revenue coming in, which I completely understand. So that was the reason why the $360,000 sounded like at least a way to bring something into the city. However, I understand your frustrations.
Lots of frustrations.
Tracy, were you in the? No. Okay. My question was. Okay. Vice Mayor Smith?
Yeah. So have we had any other companies express an interest in that tower over time?
Not since I've been here. It's, yeah.
Does any staff know any history with that? Because I would agree with some of the sentiment as far as taking a one lump sum versus dollars over time. I think it's always stronger to receive dollars over time with percentage escalators built in. I mean, I favor that type of business relationship just as a general rule of thumb, because I think you're always ahead, and it gives you more flexibility. Things change. 40 years is a long time. If you go back 40 years in time, there were no cell phones, or these devices didn't exist, and so who knows what the future holds. And I guess that cuts both ways, right? 360 today versus over time. But I'm just more inclined, just from a business standpoint, that we continue with something that is akin to what we have currently going on, as opposed to taking it's for an example, just there's been other deals that the city's gone into where we've taken a deal and then get into it over time, realizing that, oh man, what did we not see? And if we could have gone back in the time and changed that, so again, it's that foresight. You don't know what you don't know. So we're this helps us and the current administration and the current council, but then we're handcuffing future councils in this relationship. And I don't know how I feel about that. I'm a little uneasy with that ideal. I wouldn't, because I've been on the other side of receiving, it's like, man, what were you thinking when you cut that deal? And so, again, that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, and I think staff's at least analysis or thoughts were that would the tower be needed truly for 40 years? To your point, technology is changing. It's hard to predict. We talked to IT. We think the city can use the tower pretty confidently for at least 20 years. It's the risk, ultimately, the way it was expressed, if the only way they can expand the 5G network is to lower their costs by this methodology, and if they can't do that, they're going to look at other options, and so there's the possibility, obviously, of losing all revenue entirely.
Okay.
I just wanted to stress that.
Councilman Riggs is on the queue.
My question is that if we continue as is and they decide we don't want to renew leases there, it's their obligation to remove the infrastructure that they currently have in place, or is it inherited to us to remove that infrastructure?
They remove their own equipment, and we are left with our existing infrastructure tower.
Okay, thanks.
my thought is, the towers soon are probably not even going to be useful because the satellite or Starlink is working very, very well. We have it at one of our facilities and it's working very easily. So my guess is they probably won't need the tower for more than 5 years. They'll probably just get rid of it and we won't have any revenue. So I like the idea, just take the cash and let them sit on it and maybe negotiate a deal. We don't know we don't have a deal in hand, we just have the discussion, so maybe give staff the opportunity to, negotiate a cash deal and maybe bring it down a smaller amount of years or something like that, because as technology is changing, I mean, who would ever know I'd wear a watch that I can talk to? Okay, that was really Dick Tracy stuff back in my day,
Wasn't there a show about that when we were young?
Yeah, those days. So I'm just saying that technology is changing so fast that, and I'm sure the company they're not sure if their towers are going to be useful anymore because the satellite links are becoming very, very efficient and effective. I know for a fact because we're using it at one of our family places, and it works very, very well. So, and others have the satellite links to their facilities. So, I'd like to see maybe a better deal negotiated and brought back to us that, and maybe they can be up forward with how many years are you going to use that tower?
So, Mr. Mayor, we did discuss that with Verizon and asked for some, documentation about what would this, easement look like. So they did provide us some information. We haven't really done a full review because it was just really a model from somewhere else, not for our tower. But the base agreement did contain provisions that if they cease the use of the tower over a certain period of time or the use of the equipment that requires the tower over a certain period of time, then the easement is returned to the city, the property interest is returned to the city 5 years after that. We've had some thoughts about how we might go about doing that, and which would ensure that they would have the tower as long as they needed it under the easement for the 40 years would automatically end. I don't know, who knows, maybe we're still on towers in 40 years, it's a possibility. But if it, washes out early, then, we have that easement returned to the city within a reasonable time period. And, maybe the tower is useful for something else at that point. It may be useful for our police radios. I mean, I'm not sure what our own uses are going to be as well. Also, it's not an exclusive agreement, right? So, you can still use empty space on the tower. It's sparsely used now. As long as we're not interfering with anybody else's easement and ability to use it as well, then, you have some flexibility there. Just to fill in some of those gaps in, the knowledge right now. We didn't present you with the easement information because we didn't know which way you want to go, and it's it still needs quite a bit of work. So we're still working away on that. But we do want to have your idea about, what you think is a superior option for the city, given all those parameters.
Councilman Thompson's up.
Thank you. My estimation, if they're looking at building more towers, I don't think they're looking at building more towers for a short period of time. And I don't know what negotiations they have with Elon and his Starlink satellites, but I imagine if they're building towers for their 5G, that they're looking to build towers for a long-term usage. But yeah, my statements and sentiment remains the same in regards to, as far as personally, I would like to see the contract stay as is.
Is that a motion?
No, I think we have to finish people in the dais.
Vice Mayor Smith is on the queue.
Yeah, so I think there's some information, maybe a little bit of information to make a completely, fully informed decision tonight on this. So it sounds to me like then this is not an exclusive where, in this discussion, not allowing other cellular companies to rent space? Because you mentioned.
That has not been part of the discussion at all.
So
It is
if-
non-exclusive. I read the easement documents. It's not an exclusive easement just for Verizon's use.
So if competitors wanted to come along and affix their equipment, then we could.
Well, they can't affix to Verizon's equipment, but if there's
Well-
empty space on the tower, it's, you still own it.
We
So-
asked that question specifically. It's not an easement to the entire tower. The city would still be able to lease out space on that tower.
Yeah, so that, I think, again, that's important to know, so.
It is. That's why I
Because
mentioned it.
certainly, yeah, absolutely. That kind of, well, that changes the feel a little bit. Just to say, again, I'm still akin or more in favor of money over time versus a lump sum, just as a general rule. But that does help, I think, kind of digest this, certainly. So it would be good to actually kind of see how much space is available on that tower. In other words, what kind of rentable, leasable space do we have available on the tower, assuming, okay, Verizon is going to assimilate this amount, and then we can, this is a balance of space available for additional, lease opportunities for other companies, be it cellular or others. That I think, for us to have a real full, complete picture of that asset and its revenue potential would be a good thing in this decision.
We can ask Mr. Walker. It's my understanding that the equipment, while it may change, they're not seeking more space on the tower, but we didn't actually ask that specific question because if you look at the tower now and the equipment that's on it, either from Verizon or I know we have some communications between the convention center, and I know law enforcement uses it. There's a tremendous amount of space on the tower right now. But Mr. Walker, if you can hear me, are you planning on changing the footprint or requesting a change in the footprint on the tower with your equipment? Can we hear him?
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes, we can.
Okay, sorry about that. As of this time, there is the engineers have not said that they want to change any of the equipment currently on that tower at this time. So it would be just kind of as is with the current equipment on there, which is you've got 4G equipment on there at this point in time.
Okay.
Just a follow-up question. So within that lease, is there a prescription as to from this foot mark to the top to bottom? Does it very specific as to amount of real estate you're taking up on that tower? And so this is what you're getting in that lease. So again, it comes back to if I'm a business owner and I'm thinking about, other potential opportunities into the future, I want to know in that lease, what are you getting for those dollars so that I know that I can then into the future perhaps entertain other additional leases, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think your question is it obviously if it's going to take up more real estate on the tower, that reduces the city's opportunity to generate additional revenue. And it's not my understanding that it's going to take up additional, but that is a nuance we'd have to work out in the easement.
Yeah. So but within the details of that lease, it should give us that should be, spelled out, I would think.
Yeah, it'll be, we always include recitals at the beginning of any kind of lease that reflect what kind of usage is happening, particularly where we might, issue an easement, we would document what the usage is. Obviously, like I said before, there were some areas in the draft model easement that need some attention, but we would certainly address if there was a need for substantially more space on the tower that reduced our ability to monetize the rest of it in the documents themselves.
So we got some information to find out then. Sounds like. Yeah? So we'll bring this back?
Well, I guess is there direction, is there an appetite to work towards an easement arrangement for a one-time payment? I'm not getting a clear.
I would say yes, because that would be the clarity of us making a decision to do that or not. We need to know what the details would be for that. So if we can detail that out, you understand?
Mr. Mayor, just watching some of the responses from the other councilmen, I think probably we need to have a kind of a multi-pronged look-see on this. What would be a fixed number, but also in a negotiation of that, what would be a
guess what is it-
monthly term as well, you know, and in other words, to give staff kind of the open rein to develop.
Well, it also.
If I may,
service
Mr.
levels.
Mayor, so one additional point of consideration